So you're telling me that 173 Delta Force soldiers have been captured. 173, that's a lot.
An American Special Forces unit has been completely wiped out in Iran. Of course, not from our media. They'll never tell you.
There is currently an information war occurring online, and many of the people involved don't even realize it's happening. People on opposing sides being fed by different algorithms that only serve the purpose of reinforcing the narrative they agree with are experiencing completely different realities. Now, whether you agree with the war or you're against the war, it doesn't really matter. What's important is that there is an overwhelming amount of people who are completely incapable of seeing the truth due to either mass disinformation or the inability to detect AI. We are currently living in the information age, the digital age, and one of the biggest components of modern warfare in the information age is controlling the information. When you control the information, you can control the narrative, build support, boost morale, secure legitimacy, maintain the consensus. These are all things we are seeing being battled for in real time online. However, with the recent advancements in AI capabilities and the public access to these tools, it has never been easier to manufacture and push disinformation. The sheer amount of disinformation surrounding this war is absolutely astounding and, quite frankly, unprecedented. This is the first time we have seen anything like this. Millions of people are being misled into believing verifiably false information. I don't know if it's cope, stupidity, ignorance. It's not just all random bot accounts either. There's massive accounts with huge followings either falling for it or pushing it themselves. It can't all just simply be stupidity. So I feel like they're either grifting and just pushing the narrative they know their audience wants to hear, or they're being paid to push this narrative. And we know this happens. As a matter of fact, many influencers were just exposed for being on Iran's payroll. I would actually say this is one of the few things the US has a sizable disadvantage in than compared to many of our foreign adversaries. China, Russia, Israel, Iran. These countries all have massive bot farms and influencer networks that they use to spread propaganda, push narratives, and most importantly, build a consensus. That's why we're seeing such crazy stories being pushed right now coming out of Iran. They realize how important it is for the US to maintain public support, and they know if they can manufacture a narrative that the US isn't even winning, they can politically pressure Trump enough to pull out. This is actually one of the unique vulnerabilities that a democracy has versus a dictatorship, because the dictatorship doesn't have to worry about getting voted out. They can do things that aren't necessarily popular politically, and as long as it benefits their nation or even just their regime in gaining more power or influence, it's a win. You could probably even make the argument this is democracy's biggest weakness, just by looking at the US and seeing how many problems we have with foreign influence and how easily they're able to even obtain it. Now, Iran doesn't have as much influence in the US as, say, China or Israel, but when you combine that with their information war apparatus and their allies, China and Russia, whose networks are even more sophisticated, you can see how quickly things can get out of hand. I mean, we're talking just insane stuff is being pushed right now.
The largest U.S. military hospital outside of the United States serving American military personnel. And what I'm being told is, there are tons of American soldiers being brought in. Bodies on bodies on bodies. So much so that they had to shut down the labor and delivery ward because it was full of American soldiers.
Like I said, it doesn't matter what side you're on, whether you support the war or you don't. There's one objective reality right now, and that is the US is overwhelmingly dominating Iran. You could say that they're going to lose politically, or maybe they're going to lose in the long run, but as of now, the US is completely dominating this fight, and it's not even close. I think a lot of people are probably coping because they just absolutely hate the US, and they've been saying for years that if the US ever tried anything, Iran would completely crush them, and that they're not like any of these other Middle East countries, that they're prepared for this, and the US would face massive losses, and it's basically been the exact opposite. So now they can't admit they were wrong, and they don't want to counter-signal their side. So, I mean, again, I'm not saying the war is a good idea or that it's not. Personally, I think the US, unless they can end it very, very soon, cleanly, and achieve all of their demands, they will probably suffer political losses or economic losses, but I don't see any scenario where the US loses militarily. The US has achieved complete air superiority. We have 3 naval strike packages, including aircraft carriers and nuclear submarines. The Ayatollah's entire leadership has been taken out. Every single day, their missiles launched drops by 50% because every time they fire one, the launcher gets destroyed, so they're running out of launchers. Their drone factories and their drone aircraft carrier, which was supposed to be their bread and butter, has been destroyed. I just don't see any way Iran starts winning. Their only real chance is if the war starts becoming massively unpopular and the political pressure getting way too high to force Trump's hand into pulling out. That is the only way I can see the IRGC realistically walking away from this, which explains why they are so desperate and allocating so many resources to their propaganda machine. In recent years, millions of people have stopped consuming traditional media due to them being deemed widely unreliable. However, due to the rise of independent journalists and many people switching to platforms like X, Reddit, or TikTok, this opened the doors for bad actors. Anybody with an agenda can now freely spread misinformation, and it turns out the average normie actually has a really hard time being able to discern what is legit and what is fake. I would say to no fault of their own, but some of these videos are really, really bad. I'm sorry, there's just no excuse. If you're falling for these, you're not gonna make it. It's basically a litmus test. The problem is, they don't need everybody to believe it. They only need a few people to believe it so that they go and start spreading these lies as if they were truth. Unfortunately, it's a lot more than just a few people. These posts are getting millions of views and tons of engagement, which only increases the compounding effect of these false narratives spreading like wildfire. So now you have millions of people all repeating the same lie, and it's just reinforcing their confirmation bias, where they're basically willing to believe anything as long as it fits their narrative and they're being told what they want to hear. When you see something online that sounds a little out there, make sure you double check, verify your sources, see if this actually happened or not, and just use common sense. That's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. Like the video if you liked what I had to say, hit the subscribe button. We're doing multiple videos every week. I'll see you guys in the next one.